In 1978, Ford Motor Company was charged with murder, not negligence, not a civil lawsuit, but murder. 3 teenage girls had burned alive inside one of Ford's most popular cars. But this wasn't an accident. Internal documents revealed that Ford's engineers discovered a fatal flaw in the vehicle's design, a flaw that turned minor collisions into death traps. They had a solution, some costing as little as $4 per car. Ford ran the numbers and decided the deaths were cheaper. What you are about to see isn't just a story about corporate greed. It is a case study in how an American corporation calculated the value of human life and why they chose profit over people. It is 1970 and Ford is bleeding. Foreign automakers like Volkswagen, Toyota, Datsun are dominating the compact car market. Americans want small, fuel-efficient vehicles, and Ford doesn't have one. Lee Iacocca, Ford's vice president at the time, makes an aggressive promise. A brand new compact car designed and manufactured in 25 months. Normal development time is about 43 months. The parameters are strict, under 2,000 pounds, under $2,000, and it has to hit the dealerships before competition. They name it the Pinto. But cutting development time nearly in half means something has to give. And what gives is safety testing. During pre-production crash tests, Ford's engineers make a discovery that should have stopped production immediately. When the Pinto is rear-ended at speeds above 20 miles per hour, the fuel tank positioned just inches from the rear bumper ruptures on impact. Jagged bolts from the rear axle puncture the thin aluminum tank. Gasoline sprays into the passenger cabin. One spark, that's all it takes. The engineers document everything. They propose fixes, rubber bladders for the fuel tank, protective shields, reinforced bumpers. Costs between $4 and $11 per vehicle, depending on the solution. But the assembly lines are already tooled. The launch date is locked for September 1970. Dealerships are waiting for the 1971 model, and Ford's executives make a choice that will haunt the company for decades. They approve production anyway. The Pinto launches in September 1970 as a 1971 model. It is an immediate hit, affordable, practical, exactly what American families need. And for over a year, nothing seems wrong until May 28, 1972. Interstate 15 near San Bernardino, California. A 1972 Pinto merges onto the freeway. Behind the wheel is Lily Gray, 52. In the passenger seat, her 13-year-old neighbor, Richard Grimshaw. They are heading from Anaheim to Barstow, normal afternoon drive. Then, impact. A Ford Galaxy rear ends the Pinto. The closing speed is somewhere between 30 and 50 miles per hour. The Pinto's fuel tank ruptures exactly as Ford's engineers predicted. Gasoline floods the interior. Metal scrapes metal. A spark ignites, and the car explodes into flames. Richard Grimshaw is thrown from the vehicle, his body engulfed in fire. Lily Gray is trapped inside. She dies days later from congestive heart failure, a direct result of her burns. Richard survives, but 90% of his body is burned. His face is destroyed. Years of skin graft and surgeries await him. He is 13 years old, and his life will never be the same. But what happens next exposes something far more sinister than a design flaw. Richard's family hires lawyers. During discovery, they gain access to Ford's internal files. What they uncover is devastating. Crash test footage showing Pinto's failing rear-end collision test at speeds above 20 miles per hour. Engineering reports flagging the fuel tank design. Memos discussing fixes that were rejected to meet cost and deadline targets. And then the cost-benefit analysis. Ford had run calculations. They used the federal government's value for human life, which is $200,000, a figure from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. They estimated potential deaths and injuries. They compared those projected costs to the expense of fixing every Pinto. The fix cost more. The case goes to trial in early 1978. The jury sees photographs of Richard's burns. They read Ford's internal documents. Expert witnesses testify that an $8 rubber bladder could have prevented this. The jury awards $2.5 million in compensatory damages. Then comes the punitive damages, which was $125 million. It is one of the largest punitive awards in American history. The judge later reduces it to $3.5 million, but the message is clear. Ford chose profit over safety. But Richard Grimshaw's case is just the beginning. Reports flood in from across the country, Pintos bursting into flames after minor accidents, families burning alive in crashes they should have survived. Then, in September of 1977, investigative journalist Max Dowie publishes an explosive article in Mother John's magazine, Pinto's Madness. Dowie exposes everything: the crash tests Ford's engineers ran, the internal memos about rejected safety fixes, the cost-benefit calculations that valued human lives in dollars and cents. The public erupts. Congressional hearings are launched. Media coverage is relentless. Ford's reputation crashes. In June 1978, under mounting pressure, Ford issues a recall, 1.5 million Pintos and Mercury Bobcats. They finally install the safety modifications, the fixes that could have been there from day one. But for some families, it's already too late. August 10, 1978, Route 33, Elkhart, Indiana. A 1973 Pinto crawls along the highway, nearly out of gas. 3 girls inside, Judy Ulrich, 18, behind the wheel. Her sister Lynn, 16, their cousin Donna, also 18. They have just left a church volleyball game. Judy had stopped to get gas, but her gas cap fell off. She is driving slowly, trying to find it, when she realizes they are almost empty. A Chevy van approaches from behind. The driver, distracted, doesn't see them until it's too late. The collision is minor, low-speed impact. The Pinto's fuel tank ruptures. The car explodes into flames. All 3 girls are trapped inside, and they die from smoke inhalation and burns. The community is shattered, but Elkhart County Prosecutor Michael Consentino decides this can't just be another settlement. He charges Ford Motor Company with 3 counts of reckless homicide. It is the first time in American history a corporation faces criminal murder charges for a product defect. This isn't about money anymore, it is about accountability. The trial begins in January of 1980 in Winamac, Indiana. It was moved from Elkhart on a change of venue. It becomes a media spectacle, national coverage. The entire country is watching. Consentino has a budget of $20,000, while Ford's legal team had an estimated $1 million. Prosecutors present damning evidence: the design flaw, the internal knowledge, the rejected safety fixes, the 3 girls who died preventably. Ford's defense is simple. The Pinto met all federal safety standards at the time. Technically, it is true, but it feels hollow when 3 teenagers burned to death. After weeks of testimony, the jury deliberates. March 13, 1980, the verdict: not guilty. Ford is acquitted on all accounts. Some jurors later admit they believed Ford was morally guilty, but the prosecution couldn't prove criminal intent beyond a reasonable doubt. The legal system failed, but the damages was already done. By the time of the verdict, the Pinto's fate is already sealed. The recall is complete. The brand is toxic. Production ends in 1980, but the human cost remains. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration officially documented 27 deaths from Pinto fuel tank fires in rear-end collisions between 1970 and 1977. But Mother Jones estimated the real number could be between 500 and 900 deaths. We will never know the truth. The Ford Pinto scandal fundamentally changed America. It sparked stricter automotive safety regulations. It established that corporations could face massive punitive damages for knowingly selling dangerous products, and it proved that companies could be charged criminally even if convictions remained elusive. But here's what's truly haunting about this story. The people who made these decisions weren't monsters. They were executives, engineers, accountants, ordinary people in conference rooms, looking at spreadsheets, doing their jobs. And somewhere in those meetings, they stopped seeing human beings. They saw risk assessments, cost projections, acceptable losses. 200,000 wasn't a life anymore, it was a line item. But behind that number was Richard Grimshaw, a 13-year-old boy whose childhood was stolen by bands covering 90% of body. Behind that number were Judy, Lynn, and Donna, 3 girls who burned to death on their way home from volleyball practice. Behind that number was Lily Gray, a 52-year-old woman who died because a few dollars per car was too expensive. The Ford Pinto wasn't just a defective product. It was a mirror reflecting corporate America's darkest truth, that in the pursuit of profit, human lives can be reduced to numbers on a balance sheet.